There was a study done about 6 years ago, a rooftop study that showed within a mile or two, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, the highest concentrated of income from the rooftops from Highland Square. This project, and from what I always, talked with, with Joe or with his dad or with the mayor or with anybody else, that it was never going to fit into that cookie cutter model of, you plug in the square footage, you plug in the rent, and this is what's going to work. When they did the original study, Mark, they went up, and wanted to do a little more density, which I think makes a little bit more sense. A grocery store on a smaller scale, you don't need 8 toothpastes, 9 loaves of bread. I don't, and I understand that's the model that I think the typical grocery store looks at, because when you look at 40 or 50,000 square feet, you've got all that shelf space. How big is the building, the new one that's unoccupied?
A little over 3,000.
I mean, and then you have 6,400 right next door.
Yes.
I mean, there's your solution right there. I mean, you cut a couple of doors, you're looking at 9,400 square feet right there. I know it's simple, and I know I'm breaking it down to that, but there is space to do a little bit bigger than 6,400. Get your parking, but it's just going up a little bit. I think anything less than the grocery store, kind of falls a little bit short.
The Fowdies, which you talked to, Joe, and I think you kind of underplayed their level of interest. I did an interview with them just prior to when they opened the store in Richmond. And they actually gave me the numbers that they were interested in. And there was around a 9,000 square foot store. They were looking for about $12 per square foot. And one of the things that came up, and this is, again, just so we have numbers we're working with here, was that Bob asked for a loan, kind of just a low interest loan. He wasn't asking for a donation or anything like that, of about $350,000. That was the difference between what he could afford to put the store in and what he needed. At that,
A loan from whom? I'm just curious.
from the city, some type of subsidy of some sort, but it was a loan. And then he said that you told him, and this is a quote from Bob, that he was getting ahead of himself. You took about 5 months to get back to him, and then you came back to him with a number of $22 per square foot. Now, I'm not saying that you're making things up, or Bob is making things up, but those are two different numbers that it's a number, so it's one of the two have to be true. But in the end, what we're talking about, there was one grocer that had serious, real interest in the things he was asking for, or what he really desired. Now, and there's always negotiations afterwards, of course. Was $12 per square foot, and he needed a loan of about $350,000. So there are some real numbers to work with, and this is, again, I talked to him personally. I looked the man in his face, and he's a great guy. If anyone has a chance to go talk, this is Bob Fowdy, owner of Freshway Market, and he's a wonderful guy. And if anybody has a chance to talk to him, it's worth it.
When the grocery store was here, they had architectural plans made to expand and to add a bakery and a deli, and were turned down by Albrecht. They had plans to make it better, make it a little bigger, or work towards making that grocery store work right where it was. And Albrecht would not work with that and turned down those things.
Well, I'll tell you, I talked to Tom Henretta not long ago, and his statement to me, we discussed kind of the background situation. And I guess, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this to you, he does not blame the development or Albrecht Inc. for closing that grocery store. There were ongoing financial difficulties there that I don't think it's appropriate for us to continue discussing. It turned out to be a good decision for them. I mean, I'm not going to judge whether it was good or not. It was their decision.
Because they couldn't do the things that they wanted to do, because every plan that they turned in was rejected.
Well,
every plan they turned in was over 6,500 square feet.
Well, I think
And
what
Albrecht
happened
Inc. was
is,
inflexible on that point.
I think the thought was, and I think there have been over the years a lot of different viewpoints, and maybe things that we like the game of telephone used to play when we would whisper something in someone's ear and it would go around the room and it would start out as peach and come back as apple. You know, that
I'm
has
sorry,
been-
I was not playing
That-
telephone with athletics.
What's your last name?
and
My last name is Henrietta.
yes.
And my family ran that store, and my husband worked in that lottery every single day for the last, I don't know how many years, until they closed and he passed away. My sister-in-law ran that office. My father-in-law owned that store. My son worked there, my daughter, my niece, my sister, another sister-in-law. And a lot of people that lived in the neighborhood lived in that store. They tried to work with Joe Parsons before you came along. And he wanted to work with them. And Steve wouldn't work with them. And Joe finally gave up, and you took over the job. And you would not work with Beth Henrietta.
You know, I don't think that's accurate. But I do know that Beth Henrietta sent us a letter in August 2005 closing down the
Yes,
store.
they decided to give up because it was battling their head against the stone wall.
Well, I think
They had asked
That's-
several times.
You guys
And
were out there
their
then.
consultants had said, look, they've got to have about 10,000 square feet.
Well, yeah,
And
I
that's what
say
killed
that.
the issue.
I mean, founding down in the valley is a 4,000 square foot grocery store operator.
And he asked you for 9,000 square feet when he wanted to move up to the square because he said that the square needed a larger store.
No, he told me that 6,400 square foot floor layout could potentially work. You know, we've done interior floor layouts that have everything sized and located in the store with all of the departments.
And Joe,
And it
between
was something
believing
that
your
he
word
had
and
Wait.
what the guy said to my face, I'm gonna stick with
Okay,
Bob.
and
Can you
wait,
provide
wait.
documentation to all the different grocers that you talked to?
Sure, we handed out a list.
Yeah. we
No,
have-
the letters, the correspondence back and forth.
I don't think-
Most of them were conversations.
Yeah.
And there's no name that we could talk to. The thing is, you know what, and I
Call
go,
the same people.
all right.
Call Trader Joe's, call them.
I did, and that we don't have the demographics for them. We don't have the demographics for them, we don't have the space. However, when offered a reasonable solution to a lot of things, like when I found out about the theater, the second phone call I made was to Steve Albrecht and said, Steve, work with me. I would love to find alternatives to parking, because it was about parking. And he told me no. He did not want to help me find parking alternatives because he wanted to see the entire south side torn down. Now tell me, you know, am I a conspiracy theorist because I heard it from the horse's mouth?
But is it conspiracy if it's said out loud? I mean, I don't
No,
know.
and it's not.
I
And
don't know
it's-
if
but
it's
the whole
or
thing
not.
is, it's done in a way that is not,
And
there's no transparent, not complete, it's foggy, it's hazy, it's not clear.
I want to go forward just as much as everybody else. But we are not going to be able to go forward and come to a place of one mind and one heart and one spirit until we settle that which a great number of us feel betrayed. I'm here, I'm speaking for a great number of people, and there's lots of seniors that live here, and this is what they feel. I'm expressing their feelings. I get it when I get there. They have lost hope. They have lost trust. They feel betrayed. They feel betrayed by everyone that's been involved in some way or another because they do not have this clarity. We don't have it clear. So can we go forward in a way that would bring those of us together that have lost trust? Those things are history. They did happen. They were real. Now, all of us were in there personally. I mean, it was our integrity. That's our perception. What was it? What didn't we understand? What was miscommunicated? I mean, what we went in there, we had an agenda. Maybe we missed something, and so we projected that in, and it colored the whole thing. I mean, we've got to come together and meet and talk and get our hearts cleared up so our minds can be clear, you know, of this whole thing. And then let us see where we go from here.